You know, it's kind of shitty of me to leave her there crying in the middle of the restaurant, but like I had no time for her. Video last week about my disastrous date that I had in South Korea. I thought it was my worst date that I'd ever been on, and one of my friends from back in Australia called me up. He's like, dude, what about that date you had back in Sydney? And I'd totally forgotten about this. It's a crazy story and I'll share it with you today. Just on the walk from Pattaya I to Jomtien beach. I love this walk, it's really nice. I've got a 1.5 hour podcast that I'm going to listen to. And I love just being here by the beach as well. So every week I consume probably around 6 hours of podcasts. I spend a lot of time walking around, and lately I've been doing exercise and going to the gym, and I prefer listening to a podcast than music when I'm exercising. And surprisingly, I get a lot of questions from people asking me what I listen to. So I'm massively into dirt bikes. I grew up racing dirt bikes and motocross. I was actually quite good at it at one point. I've won races, I've won local championships. I don't really ride that much anymore. I've got a bike at my parents' house, and every time I go to Australia, I'll jump on the bike and ride around just for fun, but I don't care that much about it anymore. But I'm still a huge fan of the sport, so I watch motocross and supercross racing from the US, and every week there's podcasts that come out and they talk about the racing and they interview races, and the one I'm listening to today is a breakdown of the race that just happened on the weekend. I also love listening to other creators and just basically anyone that inspires me, so I'm always on the hunt for other podcasts, and they always show up in my YouTube suggested reels as well. This one I'm listening to today is an hour and a half, so I think I'll get quite far up Jomtien Beach today. That's cool. I've walked along here 100 times and I've never noticed that before. My beach. So back in 2020 when the pandemic started, I shot back to Australia, thinking it was only going to be for a few weeks and I'd just go to Australia and wait for it to pass over. But anyway, while I was there in Australia, I went on a date with a girl, and she was Australian, and I actually hadn't been out with an Australian for a while. I'd been living overseas for years, and we got talking. I think we met on Tinder, and we've been talking, and you know, I'd explained my story. I was like, I've been living in Korea for the last couple of years and just come back to Australia now. So anyway, we decided to meet and we were going out for dinner. So she asked me to decide what we were going to eat. I asked her, do you like Thai food? She said, yes, love Thai food. I was like, great, I know a really good place in Chinatown. And she was all for it, so this is funny already to me. So basically we met outside the restaurant, we walked in together, and we kind of looked at the menu quite quickly and ordered our food straight away. So we liked a lot of the same things, and so we picked a few things that we were going to share together. Then we just sort of started talking, starting to get to know each other, a bit of small talk. And she said, she stopped what she was saying and she looked around the restaurant and just sort of paused for a minute, and she's like looked around, she looked at me and she's like, there's a lot of fucking Asians in here. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was in complete shock. I had no idea like what had just happened. I was like, how are you gonna open with racism? We're just getting to know each other and you're gonna make like this completely like, firstly I was embarrassed. She didn't say it too loud that anyone else heard, but I was just like, I was embarrassed by the situation. I was just so in shock and I really didn't know what to do. So I was just like, well, of course, we're in a Thai restaurant in Chinatown. Like, is that a problem? And she was just kind of a little bit weird after that. So I was sitting there and I was just like, fuck, what do I do? Like, we've just ordered the food. I wanted to get up and leave. Like, I was like, no, I'm done with this chick. I'm not interested in being with anyone that's racist. She knows my story that I lived in Asia. We're at a Thai restaurant in Chinatown. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? So at that point, I was not interested in the girl at all. I was just like, get me out of here, basically. So I was sort of thinking, what do I do? Do I leave? Do I just pull her up on it? And I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I don't know, maybe she's nervous or something, and she just sort of, it just came out. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt for a little while, and I was sitting there, I was like, you know what, I'll let it go, and I'll just sort of get to know her as a person and see, you know, if there's any other like red flags straight away. And then the food came, we started eating. I got like not even halfway through my meal, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, I'm sorry, like I'm done here, like I'm going basically. So I said, look, I'm gonna pay for this meal, I'm gonna go, I'm sorry to leave you in the middle of the in the middle of the meal, but I think we're too different, and it's not gonna work basically. So she like then started crying. She's like, what do you mean? And I told her, you know, like the comment you made, I'm not cool with that, and I don't like racism. And she was like, oh, but you know, I was just pointing something out. And I was like, I left basically. I was like, I'm sorry. And like, you know, it's kind of shitty of me to leave her there crying in the middle of the restaurant, but like I had no time for her. So I left the restaurant, left it there, and I had a couple other friends that were out in the city that night just drinking at a pub nearby. So I went around and met them, and I was telling them the story. They're just like, dude, what the fuck? Anyway, she started ringing me and she's like, oh, can you come back? I want to see you, like, you know, I want to make this work or whatever. I was like, I'm sorry, no. And then, you know, for days afterwards, she was like texting me, like, give me another chance, I'll show you I'm a good person, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, I have zero time for racism. So yeah, I wasn't into it at all. So I think that's about it for my disastrous date stories. I can't think, no other ones come to mind, which is great because I've actually been on quite a lot of dates. I've met so many different people for the first time, and I think they're the only two bad experiences that I can think of. I want to thank everyone that watched my other video, the date that cost me $400 that I had in South Korea. From everyone watching that video, I've now made back, I think I made close to $150 off that video. So I've almost earned back like a third of what that date cost me. I really enjoy reading all the comments as well. It seems I wasn't the only one that's had experiences or had things like that happen. And I actually had quite a few people say, God, if that's your worst date, you're doing all right. So I'm interested to know those stories. So if you have one that you want to share, if you have a disastrous date story, leave that in a comment below. I'd love to read it. Be good to know that I'm not the only one that has these shitty experiences. Just getting back now. This is such a nice walk along here. My podcast has been great, really enjoying it. So if you come to Pattaya and you haven't spent much time over here, you need to come check out this area, Pattaya I and Jomtien. It's a completely different change of pace from Pattaya, and awesome. You know, I always try and stay around here just because it's so nice. So I got great response from everyone the last time I did one of these storytelling videos. So it's something I'll do more often. I'm not going to do them super frequently, just every now and then. I like sharing. I've got some funny stories that I don't mind sharing over the years of traveling and everything. And as I mentioned before, if you have any stories you want to share, leave a comment below. So I don't get time to reply to all the comments because I'm doing the videos every day now, and I sort of get around 100 to 150 comments on each video. But I read every single one of them. So leave a story if you want to share it with everyone as well. All right, guys, that's it for me. See you tomorrow.
Sexy lady.